In this video, we're going to talk about tree lighting, and a couple of the products that are used in tree lighting are extension cords. And this type of extension cord specifically is referred to as a brownie or a cafe in our company. So if you hear those words, you know they're talking about these pretty standard household extension cords. You have a strand of lights that we turn into balls, and there's typically two types of strands. There's 50s and there's 100 strands, and what that means is 100 bulbs or 50 bulbs for the strand. And then you have your staple gun, which everyone will get one of these. So the first thing you need to do when lighting a tree is you really need to do two things first. You need to figure out, how am I going to get power to this tree? And then after you've ran power, hopefully it's at the base, but it's not always that easy. Sometimes you're running it through the canopy from another tree, sometimes you're running it from an outlet that's 50 feet away. Whatever the case is, figure out the power first and then run it and get it to the tree so that it's available. When you do get power to the tree, you want to make sure you kind of wrap it around the tree trunk, a couple times and tie it off. That way there's no risk of the cord being pulled and having stuff get unplugged or anything like that. The second thing you want to do when you get to a tree is basically assess the tree and make a plan in your head. The folder indicates that this tree uses 3 strands, and you need to kind of think about, okay, I have 3 strands. What's my plan? What branches am I going to light? What branches are going to make the tree look the best at nighttime? Because that's what these are. At night, all you see are the lights. So whatever the lights do is what people are going to see. And it's important to highlight the outer branches first, because those are the most visible. If you do a lot of the inside branches, they can be covered up by the canopy or by other branches. So looking at this tree, I obviously want to do something on both main trunks. And then when I get up to this side, I can see there are 3 or 4 branches. So I'm going to choose this outer branch, and I'm going to choose this outer branch, and then I'll be done with that one. And then when I come up this one, I want to make sure I plan to go up both sides of this Y, or this juncture right here. So I want to go up this one and then maybe hit 1 or 2 of these small ones, and then come back, go up this one, and hit 1 or 2 of those small ones. That way in the end we have branches going off in every direction, and the tree will look really good at night. So when you have, the thing with trees is you have so many different junctures and Ys, and there's a certain way to wrap a tree so that when we come to do repairs, it's easier to take strands off and put new strands on. And what I'm going to do with this tree, because it has a nice juncture down here at the very bottom, I'm going to start with this branch, and I'm not going to come back to go up this one. I'm going to use separate strands to go up each side here. And that will make a little more sense as you learn more about wrapping trees and as we go through the rest of this tutorial. So I'm going to give you an example on this side. So you plug in, and then I'm going to come around the back here, and then you just spiral wrap it. Now, you want to try to be as consistent as possible with your spacing throughout the whole tree. That way the lights are evenly spaced and it doesn't look real heavy right here and then real light up there. You want it to be evenly distributed. So figure out, we're typically about 4 fingers worth of spacing, plus or minus, a couple fingers. So spiral wrap up. And another thing to keep in mind is you don't want to wrap it as tight as possible, because when it rains, especially with certain trees like Palo Verdes and some of the saguaro cacti and other things, when it rains, these trees and cactus tend to swell up, and it will, if you've wrapped it really tight, the tree expands and it ruins our wire and destroys the strand of light, so we have to go out and replace it. So leave it a little loose so that it has some give, and you just keep spiral wrapping up. Now, when you get to a juncture like this, you always want to, if you're gonna light a branch, you wanna light the branch that you come to first, so the lowest branch at the juncture. So you'll see, like for example, at this juncture, if you were coming up and you wanted to do both this branch and this branch, you would do this one first because it's lower, if that makes sense. Sometimes it's really close, sometimes it's about even. These two are about even, so it probably wouldn't matter. But when there is a real significant difference, do the first branch you come to, knowing that you have to come back down. So with this branch, because I'm going to eventually go up this branch, I now have to make sure I leave enough space between my wrap to come back down and fill in the middle, but also to keep it so it's the same space as I've been doing. So I want to go up, and unfortunately this tree has thorns, so I have to be a little more careful. But I want to leave quite a bit more space, so again, when I come down, I can do the same thing. So I'm gonna continue to go up this one. And then for sake of the video, I'm gonna choose to go back down right here. And when you go back down, you choose a spot where you can kind of loop it around. And then you want to go back down in the same direction so that you don't ever want your wires to cross. You see how these are crossing right here? If that ever happens, it means you've done something wrong. And ask your supervisor what you need to do to fix it. So you kind of have to figure out, okay, which direction do I need to go so I don't cross? Which in this case would be like this. And then you're just going to go back down the branch, wrapping the lights in between the other. And some of these trees are not fun to wrap, as you can see. So just kind of play with it until, there you go, it falls into place. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come and we're going to now go up this branch and continue doing the same thing. The last thing I kind of want to show you is when you have to use a staple, which you should try to avoid as much as possible, but there will be times where the lights, especially with Palo Verdes, it's straight up and down. The Palo Verde is really slick, so the lights tend to fall. If you have to use a staple, make sure you are pretty light with putting it in there. Don't jam the staple in there. Don't try to make it so it's really holding the strand of lights real tight, because the same thing will happen when it swells. It will sometimes cause the light strand to be ruined, and we have to come out and replace it. So when using staples, just be wise and keep them kind of loose.